Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are getting ready to set up our recording, and at the end of this video, we're going to wrap up by actually hitting the record button. So I'm going to get you from 0 to 60 in getting ready to get your recording off the ground. But before we begin, we have a few options as far as software, and you'll notice throughout this entire training, what I'll do is I'll give you a professional option and then I'll give you a free option. And I'll kind of highlight some of the differences between the two. Now on Windows, our main number one kahuna for screen recording software is going to be Camtasia. It's a $400 software, but it is well worth every penny. And if you do a lot of these, then it's going to be well worth that cost for you. Now you do have a free option on Windows. There's a couple of them out there, but Active Presenter is one of the best that I've found so far. And a lot of people that use the free software are using Active Presenter. It has most of the same features as Camtasia, but it's not quite as polished and it doesn't have quite all the features, annotations, things like that. And then on the Mac side, you do have Camtasia. It costs the same price on Mac as it does PC. But Camtasia on Mac works very well, but it's not quite as good as it is on the Windows version. They're making it better and better as time goes on. But right now, the top software on Mac is ScreenFlow. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. But the differences between Mac and PC ScreenFlow versus Camtasia is ScreenFlow records in a native format to Mac, whereas Camtasia records in its own format and then converts to something that is compatible with Mac. So ScreenFlow is a little bit faster. It is also a little bit more stable as far as, using it on lower Macs and things like that, because it uses the native screen recording codec built into Mac OS X. Now on the Mac, it does actually ship with a free screen recording software, and it is QuickTime. You can actually record the entire screen and then edit it later. We'll talk about editing a little bit later on, but Camtasia, Active Presenter, ScreenFlow all have their own editors built in, whereas with QuickTime, once you record it, you don't have any way of editing it besides simple trims inside of QuickTime. Now, iMovie ships on the Mac as well. We'll get to this also in the editing portion later on, but you can edit those screen recordings with iMovie, and it does very, very well. So the other thing that you're going to need to think about, and this is both on Mac and PC side, is you're going to need a good mic. Now, this doesn't have to be a $300 mic, but it needs to be a halfway decent mic. Most of the mics built in, especially on Windows computers, are not very good. They're going to give you a very tinny sound, and it's going to sound kind of like you're in a well. But what you can do is you can go to your local Best Buy or Walmart or Target, wherever you prefer to shop, or you can go on Amazon. Usually it's a little bit cheaper ordering it online. And you can pick up a pretty good mic for around, $35 to $50. That's going to give you a halfway decent mic. And it's also going to give you kind of a disposable mic. So whenever it breaks, for $35, it's not going to last very long. So whenever it breaks, you can just easily replace it by going out again or ordering it online. And as far as microphones go, you really have two main options. You have what's called a headset mic, and then you also have a desktop mic. It can also be on a mic stand. And so what I did is I just went to Amazon here and I just did a Google search for a Logitech headset. Logitech makes one of the best headset microphones for a pretty decent price. And you can see you have a couple of different types here. You have a USB that plugs in and it's wired. And then you can see that that's a really expensive one there, but you have, a little bit nicer ones. That one right there is $16. For $72 here, you have a nice wireless one, and you can see this is what's called a boom mic. It actually folds down from the side of your headphones. You have ones here that don't mess up your hair, things like that. So the advantage to these is you can actually move around. You don't have to talk in front of a single mic. These are also usually a little bit less expensive, especially the wired ones, but they don't quite have as good of a talk quality and audio quality but their ease of use is very, very high. You have audio coming in automatically, and you also have the microphone, so it makes things a lot easier. Most of them also have a built-in line mic mute, so you can have some audio options here, but you can also hit mute on that. It's a hardware switch mute. The other option as far as microphones go is what's called a USB microphone. The reason that we use USB is because a standard microphone, an XLR, does not have an input option on your Mac or PC. So you're going to have to get a separate piece of hardware. So a USB microphone is completely powered by the USB. It also provides the audio in and out. So that's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to carry around, and it's a lot less expensive to get in the first place. So you can see here for $30 here, you can get a pretty decent microphone. One of the best microphones out there is by a company called Blue, and then it's Blue Yeti is the name of it. Blue Snowball is also a very, very good mic. And depending on how much you're going to be doing screen recordings and webinars, things like that, it's going to depend on what type of microphone that you use and how much you spend on it. If you're going to spend a lot of time talking and putting audio into your computer, you're going to want to spend a little bit more on the initial cost of that microphone. But again, you can get a very, very good microphone, as you saw, for around $50. The other thing you're going to need to set up is you're going to need to set up your recording size. And Camtasia and ScreenFlow do this two different ways. That also goes the same for Active Presenter and QuickTime. The way Camtasia does it is you set up an initial size, and that's it. So you set up an 800 by 600, and I'll show you what this looks like here in just a second. But you set up an 800 by 600 area, and it glows on your screen, and that's your recording size. Whereas ScreenFlow and QuickTime, what they do is they record the entire screen and then let you scale it down later. So it gives you the same options, just two different ways of delivery. ScreenFlow is a little bit more flexible, but it does require you to do it on the back end, whereas Camtasia requires you to set it up on the front end, but it's not as flexible later on. So let me show you what Camtasia looks like. I'm going to switch over to Windows here. And whenever you first load up the Camtasia recorder, this is what will come up. You can see the icon down here on the bottom. Now you do also have a main Camtasia Studio, but whenever you hit that record button, this is the application that's going to load up. You can see you have your main options here. You have your select area. This is what I was talking about. You can either select full screen, and now you can see the little green markers running across the entire screen. And then you also have custom. So you can set it at 640 by 480, and it'll tell you where, and then you can kind of move it around. Or you can also grab one of these sliders and select a custom area. So this is nice if you only want to capture the certain area inside a web browser. You don't want to get the navigation bar and all your bookmarks and things like that, but you want to capture just the main content. For your presentation, you can capture a full screen image. You also have a webcam option here, where if you do have a webcam equipped PC, you can hit that webcam button and actually record your face as well as the screen. So if you want to pop yourself up, you can do that. The other thing you'll notice here is you see an audio on option, and it's automatically going to be checked. You can just tap this big red button and it'll go away. But you'll want to tap that and make sure it's on so that it picks up your microphone. Hit this drop down menu here, and you'll see a couple of more options. You can see my microphone here, or you can see do not record microphone. And then the other one you're going to see is record system audio. And this is like if you're playing a YouTube video, or if you have sound effects inside your internet browser, whatever you're trying to show, it's going to automatically record that system audio. Me, by default, I automatically just check everything here, my microphone and my system audio. Then I can always mute the system audio later if it becomes annoying. But if I want to play a video, then I have that option. And then you also have a volume slider here, so you can raise and lower your volume. And then you have a big red record button here. So all you have to do is hit the big red button, and you can see it's going to count down. And now it is actually recording the screen. So you're going to talk, you're going to show your presentation, whatever. And then whenever you're done, you have a couple of different options to stop. Either you can give it a second and pull this window back up. It'll give you a timer. If you have a second screen, you can always throw this on the second screen, and then you can see your timer running up and audio and all that kind of stuff. You have the option to pause and stop here. The other option you have is you can actually use keyboard shortcuts on your computer. So you can pause and resume and stop the recording all with keyboard shortcuts. So once you hit the stop button there, it's going to load up the Camtasia window. And then usually what I do is I just hit save and edit here. You can also hit produce. It is actually recording the screen. So you're going to talk. So you can either hit save and edit, which is what I usually do, or you can have it automatically loaded up for you in Camtasia Studio. Now, as far as ScreenFlow goes, this is the recording panel that comes up with ScreenFlow. So you can see it's essentially the same options. They're just laid out a little bit differently. You'll also notice here that while you do have a monitor selection, if you only have one monitor, then that option is going to be grayed out for you. I actually have two. That's why it says that there. But you'll notice that it does not have a size option. It doesn't give you the option to record your certain size because remember, ScreenFlow records the entire screen. And then it gives you the option later on at the end of the recording, once you're editing it, to slim that down, make it smaller, whatever else. So again, you have the same option. It's just as far as execution goes. And then just like Camtasia, you have record audio from my mic here and then record computer audio as well. Again, you have some advanced options like timing here, but we won't cover that right now. So this is the ScreenFlow panel. It's a lot simpler. It doesn't have quite the options on the front end, but it has more options on the back end. The idea behind ScreenFlow is just to get you recording and then you can fix it later, whereas Camtasia requires a little bit more prep. You need to have your window open, all that kind of stuff, know what size you're recording to. So once you have your recording size set up and you saw how they're different between the two, what you're going to do is you're going to present your PowerPoint or your Keynote or your Google Drive document. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Just whichever one you created your presentation in. You remember Drive has the option to go full screen so you can record the full screen as well. As far as recording size options for this, I recommend just presenting your presentation full screen and recording full screen. That's going to give you the highest quality and that's going to give you the biggest size. Whatever size your monitor is what size it's going to record at. So now that you have your PowerPoint and your Keynote presented, what you're going to do is you're going to grab those notes, whether they be on your PowerPoint and they pop up in the little notes panel, either on your secondary screen, or you've printed them out, or you wrote them down, whichever method works easiest for you. But you want to make sure you have everything ready to go before you hit that big record button. Otherwise, you're going to be stopping and starting and restarting, and it'll frustrate you. So now that you have your notes, you're set up and you're ready to go, a couple of things to keep in mind while you're recording your video. You want to make sure and keep it short. We talked about this whenever we created the PowerPoint presentation, but you want to keep it short. Most people's attention span is between 6 and 10 minutes. I usually aim for 8, and that's what I would recommend that you aim for, unless it's some sort of live event. If it's a webinar or something that's live, the idea that it's live keeps their attention a lot better. And then there's tactics that you can use to keep them engaged for longer periods. But for training, for things that you're creating this type of video for with PowerPoint presentation, all those different types of video that we talked about, you want to make sure and keep that right around 8 minutes. If it's longer than 8 minutes, I would chop it up into 2 bits. The other thing you want to do is you want to try to get it right the first time. And this is really just to eliminate a lot of frustration on your end, on the back end. Whenever you're recording this later on, it's going to frustrate you if you're having to chop out sentences and re-record and things like that. So whenever you're in the initial recording process, you want to make sure that you get everything the first time, because trust me, it's really frustrating whenever you have to go back later on and re-record. Trust me, it never sounds the same, whether it be allergies, time of day, humidity, all sorts of things play into different audio and how they sound. And again, it's not the end of the world if you have to go back and re-record, but trust me, you'll thank me later if you get everything together the first time. And if you mess up something, what I recommend doing is I would start the sentence before wherever you messed up at, and then that will give you more options to go back and re-record. And then the more and more you do this, you'll learn where a good stopping and starting points is. And instead of messing up, you'll learn to take long pauses, because a long pause is easy to edit, whereas a mess up sometimes is or isn't. But that's just something you'll learn as you do more and more of these. So now you're ready to rock and roll. So hit that big record button, and I'll see you on the other side when you have your video in the books. I'll see you in a few.